Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and this is set number 71817, Lloyd's Elemental Power Mech from the March 2024 wave of NINJAGO Dragons Rising sets. This set contains 253 pieces, 3 minifigures, and I think it retails for $19.99 in the US. Weirdly, this set is just not on LEGO's American website, but the other mechs in the scale from January were $19.99, and in Europe that is the price in euros. So I'm gonna assume that's the price, but there's a chance it might be like 25 or something, but yeah, I'm like 90% sure it's 20. Anyway, of course, this set does not officially release until March 1st, 2024, but it was gifted to me early for review by the LEGO Group through the LEGO Ambassador Network, but all opinions expressed in this video are my own. If you missed it, I've been doing early reviews of all the March 2024 Ninjago sets, and I still have one more coming after this one, so stay tuned for that. So if you like this kind of content and you want to see more, liking the video and subscribing to the channel does a ton to help support me, and also helps to put the videos in your feed as soon as they're posted. But now, with all that being said, let's get into the review. So, as I mentioned, this is the 4th mech in this style we've gotten this year. We got 3 in January, and then weirdly 1 more in March. And all of these mechs have a pretty cool gimmick to them. You see, they're meant to be mixed and matched and swapped around, so they're built somewhat modularly so you can take off parts quite easily. Just for reference, here's the graphic on the back of the box showing how it combines with some of the other sets. It's only showing the Sora and the Kai mechs here, but it's also compatible with the Cole mech from last wave. But there's like 3 or 4 main points where you're meant to detach things. The arms of the mech pop off super easily. Of course, you do that on both sides. And then there's waist articulation. You can separate the waist from the body. And then also, if you really want to, you can remove the accessories from the hands. The swords just connect on with the Technic pin. So there's all those parts taken apart. So yeah, the other 3 mechs from January can do the same exact thing, so then you can mix and match parts. Which I do think is actually a really amazing play feature. I love that a lot. And I don't know if they're going to, but I would like to see this for more of the Ninja in the future. If they continue with this system for the other 4 Ninja next year, that would be really amazing. I'm not going to show you the different combinations in this video. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a separate video on that. I already did a video on the January combinations, but I'm definitely down to update it to include this set now. So let me know if you guys are interested in the comments. For now, though, I've got the mech put back together so we can take a look at the mech in its entirety. Right off the bat, aesthetically, this is very different for a Lloyd vehicle just in general. Typically, LEGO has a pretty standard formula for their Ninja vehicles. They want them to be identifiable as that Ninja's vehicle, so it's just a lot of the color that they use. Kai's mech's almost entirely red. Sora's mech was red and pink and dark blue. Cole's mech was black and orange. Lloyd, though, doesn't really follow that design philosophy. Obviously, there is a lot of green here, and there is a bit of gold, which is also one of Lloyd's colors, but the colors black and dark red are really prominently featured here, and those are colors that Lloyd doesn't typically use. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how I feel about that. On the one hand, I think it's great that they're mixing things up, and this is super unique. But on the other hand, I think this could have looked more like a Lloyd mech. But after 13 years of Ninjago, I'm all for them mixing things up and just trying new things, so this is definitely very cool. Just very interesting to see. I love the shaping on the feet of this mech. This is actually really awesome. It very much looks like the mech's wearing a shoe, and it's so sleek, it feels very complete. The way the leg connects to the body is quite unique too, because the ball joint's actually coming out the back of the leg, so they made the feet very tall to connect around the back, and that's an awesome way to mix things up. It makes the poses feel very different for this mech. The legs use the SCCBS joint pieces in green, and most of the mechs in this collection do use that part. I will say, I do maybe wish it was covered up a little bit more. I like the trans green in the center, that is quite nice, but maybe it could have popped a bit more. And I think the standard green might even be too colorful here, because with the black and everything, like the black does look quite nice, but these colors do contrast a lot. The small Aaron mech from the first wave this year introduced this part in dark green, and I'd be curious to see this mech if it used dark green instead of normal green instead. I think that may have worked better. It would have fit better with the black, and the trans green pieces would have popped more. But I suppose this is fine overall. I do feel like it's a little bit blocky at the bottom. Like, this is all very rectangular. I would have liked maybe some more armor pieces down here, but I think it's fine, all things considered. The upper parts of the legs use the Master of the Mountain armor in black, and that's just a great part for texturing, and I feel like it fits in well here. Of course, we once again have full-size ball joints to connect to the waist, and range of motion here is massive, as with all the other mechs. Combined with the range of motion on the feet, there's so many different ways to pose this thing. Obviously, because the feet connect out of the back, you can't really move the feet forward at all, but there's a huge range of motion backwards, as well as lots more than normal side to side. So it's not tough to pose this thing at all. And because of the way the feet connect, you can get some really wacky poses out of this thing like this, which more standard mechs probably couldn't do. Just like the other mechs in this line, there is a joint at the waist, and that's what allows it to come apart, but it also allows the mech's entire torso to turn, which is just great for posing. There's a couple of clips on the side which you can see I have holding golden katanas right now, and technically those katanas aren't there by default. They're meant to be Lloyd's accessories in this set, but while you have Lloyd in the mech, you can put those there, and I always appreciate when sets do things like that. It's always good to have a place to keep accessories while they're not being used. And it actually doesn't look bad on the mech, I honestly don't mind those there. Coming up to the torso, they use the golden SCCBS cockpit piece, and of course that newer like Dragons Rising printed piece on there. That can open up so you can see the interior, and you can see there's studs in here to fit a minifigure. So if I want to place Lloyd inside, I get some down real easily, close it back up around him, and there you go, there's how he actually looks in the mech. These like angled golden pieces are used on the shoulders, and honestly, I don't know how I feel about them. I do think it's quite cool in concept, but I feel like with the rest of the mech, it's maybe a little bit awkward. They just feel like they don't integrate the most naturally, especially when looking at everything from the back. It's like a very abrupt cutoff. I do appreciate the inclusion of one gold brick right here, though. It does help to tie that color in. But yeah, I don't know, just the entire color scheme of this mech is very odd to me, and I've had a hard time forming like a concrete opinion on this one. Then something interesting about this mech that the other mechs don't have, there's a little helmet at the top. It uses the new larger SCCBS armor piece that was introduced in January in black, though obviously this is a very different context for it, which is quite cool actually. Shows the different ways that piece can be used. And then it has two of the mech finger pieces coming off to be little horns. That's very samurai-esque, but it also feels almost Oni-esque to me. And I don't know what the designer's intent was, but that was kind of my interpretation of this mech, as it was sort of like meant to represent Lloyd's Oni form as well. So that's why it's got the horns and the darker colors on it. But it also just works as like the general idea of samurai. The helmet just connects on with two battle droid arm pieces, so it could be moved up and moved out of the way very easily. And there's lots of different ways you can display that. So you can have it fully back like this, raise it up even higher in the air like that, or pull it all the way forward, and that looks pretty terrible, but that's a thing the mech can do. The arms of the mech once again use the same Master of the Mountain armor pieces of black, but there was these really cool green lightning pieces coming off of them. That was a piece that was introduced in the first wave of Dragons Rising sets, though not in this color. It was in trans blue and trans yellow back then, so it's great to get that in another color, and I think it does a good job to represent Lloyd's elemental power. Because of course this is an elemental power mech, right? In the show, the ninja channel their power through these mechs, so it makes sense to represent it in some way, and I think this is probably the best way to do it. Lloyd's power is sometimes represented by lightning, so I actually think this fits in quite well, and it's also just a great part to have. You can see it's also connected on a ball joint, so you can change how it's being posed. Yeah, that part's actually really cool. Now they once again use the SCCBS droid up here, however, this part feels very thin to me. I wish there was a bit more bulk here, especially in this middle section. I feel like it thins out way too much. I do like the dark red on the wrist. Again, I don't know entirely what the point of the dark red on this mech is, but it does look cool at the very least. But yeah, I wish there was a bit more bulk in this middle part. I feel like this transition's way too abrupt. And how thin like the elbows are is very obvious when looking at this mech. The other three mechs do a much better job of making the arms feel more cohesive. Then finally at the hands, we have two mech fingers as well as a thumb, and there's swords being held onto by tactic pins. As I showed you earlier, you can remove both of those. And kind of interestingly, they're not actually the same sword. One's like this larger blade piece, one's a slightly smaller blade piece. And the larger blade also has a longer hilt and a tassel coming off the end, while the smaller blade doesn't have any of that. I think it's kind of neat that those aren't the same. It helps to give the mech some more personality if you imagine like how Lloyd would actually fight with this. You'd use the small sword for some things, the big sword for other things. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit odd. And the posability on this mech is fairly solid. Very in line with the other mechs if you saw my other reviews. But yeah, pretty huge range of motion. It's a smaller mech, so like there's not a ton of weight to it, so it's very easy to get dynamic poses without it collapsing. As I mentioned with the feet, because they're connected in a different way, there's just different poses you could get out of it. So that's restrictive in some ways and freeing in other ways. But I think the posability on this one's definitely solid. I'm quite happy with it. So overall, I like this build. I will say it is probably my least favorite of the four that they've done. And the more that I look at it, I think it's the lack of any SCCBS armor pieces. Because of course, the joints of the cockpit are meant to go with the armor pieces, and all the other sets use a combination of the big ones and the small ones. But this set opts for the Master of the Mountain armor pieces instead, and the only SCCBS armor piece is on the helmet, which doesn't really count. And that's okay in theory. I don't think it needs to be entirely textured with SCCBS armor pieces. Like the other sets use a combination of just normal bricks and those parts. But yeah, using the joints without any of them does leave things feeling a little bit awkward in a few places. Again, the biggest thing is that these arms are very thin, and that does feel a little unnatural to me. And then the bottoms of the legs feel a little too blocky to me. I do still think this is a great set, don't get me wrong. Assuming this is actually $20, and we'll take a look at the minifigures in a moment, but this is a great size build and 3 really great minifigures for presumably $20. Still would be a set I recommend. I just don't think the build itself is as strong as the other 3, but it is still a build I like. However, of course, as I just mentioned, that's not everything of the set, so now let's take a look at the minifigures that it comes with, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts. So here are the first 2 minifigures in this set. We have Mech Pilot Suit Lloyd and Mech Pilot Suit Nia. And neither of these two are new for this set. In fact, they're the only Mech Pilot suits to come in more than one set, but they are the perfect choice of minifigures. Because these two came in the Eagle the Master Dragon set in January, and while I did like that set was $70, which is a pretty high price, and it wasn't the best value. But at the time, these two were exclusive, so if you wanted all the mech suits, you had to get that set. But now these are the specific 2 minifigures they choose to re-release of this set, so with the release of this set, you could get every mech suit ninja for $30 or less. I think that's really incredible. You could just pick the set with your favorite ninja and get anyone you want. And I would like to see LEGO do this kind of thing more often. So yeah, if you're a huge fan of Nia or Lloyd, or you want to complete your mech suit ninja and you didn't get EGOT yet, this is a great set to pick up just for the minifigures, because presumably $20 is significantly cheaper than $70. But the actual minifigures themselves, I do quite like overall. Lloyd doesn't come with his armor piece in the set because for whatever reason, whatever minifigures actually piloting the mech doesn't get their armor piece. I assume this was because they wouldn't fit in the mechs with their armor pieces, but no, that's just not true. They do still fit with them, so I'm not sure why they're not included, but that does match Cole and Kai and Jay in the other sets. Still though, the armor piece that they use is just the generic gold one, so if you have extra parts in your collection, it's very easy to modify. And the actual color scheme on Lloyd I think is fantastic. The bright green looks so great with the gold, and the dark green complements it all perfectly. I really like the lime green on the belt here too, and I love how armored these suits are. They look amazing. These new hood pieces too are incredible. Some of my favorites in a very long time. And then you can see around the back of his torso he's got his name written in jargon. It just spells out the word Lloyd. And that's the same with all the ninja, they each have their names written. Taking the hood piece off, you can see it's just Lloyd's standard Dragons Rising face underneath. So on the opposite side he has his dragon power eyes. So here's how he looks with those with the hood on. And then Mech Pilot Suit Nia is probably one of the ones I like less. Nia's got a very interesting color scheme in that it changes all the time, and I feel like she's either usually my favorite or my least favorite, and this is one that just didn't really hit for me. I typically quite like gunmetal gray on her, but I don't know, with the gold printing and the dark red and the cyan, it just feels like way too much. I think especially on the hood, the gunmetal gray just doesn't really work with everything else. I feel like they probably should have leaned harder into the gold here, and included gold on the hood instead of the gunmetal right there. But it is still a very cool design for the minifigure. You can see it's mostly just Lloyd recolored, the belt's slightly different, but the details of the armor are exactly the same, the only difference is the symbol that they have. And of course, if I turn her around and take off her armor piece, you can see the back of her torso print. And just like Lloyd, she's got her name written right there in jargon. One side of her head has a dragon power face, the other side's just her standard Dragons Rising face. So still a cool figure, like I wouldn't call it bad, I just don't necessarily vibe with the color scheme. I very much appreciate getting it in such a cheap set though, quite happy that it's here. And then here's the final minifigure from this set, the villain minifigure for this set, we have Cinder. Cinder is of course the new Master of Smoke for Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 2, and he is once again a figure that was formerly exclusive to the Eagle the Master Dragon set. Now, unlike Mech Suit, Lloyd, and Nia, this isn't the only other set that he comes in. He actually comes in a total of 3 sets this wave, but this is the cheapest way to get him. So if you want the new Master of Smoke and you don't want one of the larger sets, this is definitely the cheapest way to do it, and he is a very, very cool minifigure. He uses the LEGO Batman movie Joker hairpiece in gray, which is an amazing new color for that part, and his actual headpiece is transparent black, which is something we do not see too often. Transparent heads in general, I mean. This might be our very first trans black head with printing on it. But yeah, you can see they're definitely representing his element here. He's got like these bags over his eyes and they're very intense eyebrows, but then there's like smoke enshrouding his face. And on one side that's actually covering his mouth so you can't see that he's angry. But on the other side he's got like a somewhat neutral smirk. I really love like the sand blue coat piece that he has. Jordana also uses it in this wave, but it just makes the figure feel a lot more three-dimensional. And then the actual armor is very, very cool as well. The color scheme for the villains this time around is just great. That light blue pops so much, and I love how the purple complements everything too. But then underneath everything, he's got like somewhat samurai-esque armor, and you can see that a lot more clearly around the back. I love the scuff marks and the scratch marks too. It makes the armor feel actually used. It's not like he just got it. This is a super detailed minifigure all around, one I'm very happy to get in such an affordable set. Probably one of my favorite figures of the wave. And so, overall, what are my thoughts on this set? Well, I kind of already recapped this earlier, but in short, I think it's an amazing value. Like 250 pieces, 3 really great minifigures, and a great size build for only $20. Again, presumably, I'm like 99% sure this is going to be $20, but I can't say positively. But assuming this is $20, this is a great deal. The actual mech I don't think is as strong as the other 3, but it is still pretty good, just not as good. But honestly, I think the biggest draw of this set is the minifigures. Getting these 3 for so cheap is incredible. Like, it genuinely means so much that they took these minifigures that were exclusive to a bigger set of the wave and said, no, it's okay, you can also get them in this cheaper set here. Like, that genuinely means so much. I don't know if I can think of the last time every ninja was available for $30 or less. I guess if you combine the 2 core waves, you get close, right? I think Cole is still $35 then, but everyone else you can get for less. But having so many characters available for so cheap is great for kids, great for collectors, and also the sets are all really good too. I'm saying this is the weakest one, it's still great. It's just that the others are so good that they're better. So all around, very big fan of this set. Honestly, if you're a Ninjago fan and you like collecting mechs or like collecting minifigures, this is one I recommend you pick up. Not necessarily one you need to get like day one, right? You can wait a little while, but it is one I recommend checking out at some point. But of course, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of this set in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to my channel if you're new. And go check out my other early Ninjago Dragons Rising 2024 reviews up right now on my channel, and I have one more coming very soon. But as of this video, I think that's about all I have to say, so thanks for watching everybody, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!